Hello, my name's Timothy Dolan, and I am going to do something a little different today. This is a kind of a travelogue. This is a journey to Slab City. It's a little community, if we can call it such, in very far southern California, south of the Salton Sea. Not too very far from the Mexican border. In fact, you go through a checkpoint in order to reach the area. And it's in the extreme southern reaches of the Coachella Valley. I took this journey because it was a place that I had heard from a neighbor who was a very nice, jovial sort, church-going man, but also a biker, who described Slab City as a place that he would be afraid to go to, which piqued my interest. So naturally I thought, okay, here we go. So I did. I kind of did a little Wikipedia search and found that Slab City indeed existed, and that it was in essence a place that had, in essence, no laws at all. In fact, they described themselves as the last free place. And it is made up of a kind of a hodgepodge of various characters who are, I suppose, united by a very strong sense of extreme libertarianism that, as I mentioned before, no laws need apply. Now, let's see what that reveals. As you can see from this particular image, you get, shall we call them, creative types, artists, desert artists to be sure, using a lot of found objects that they then collect and assemble for various kinds of messages. So this is the so-called Trump wall. I don't think it's needs too much more narration than that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide and see what else they have to offer in this particular community. It is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it is off the grid. They are very proud of that fact, and that they don't particularly care for any services whatsoever. Heavily dependent on solar power. That's another uniting feature. Almost all the places there, they are off the grid. They create their own private grids, very appealing to some people. But you have this kind of problem, as I mentioned. If you're going to have a libertarian community and no government, this also means, in essence, you have no government services. What we're looking at here is the burned out skeletal remains of one dwelling that obviously caught fire. Well, when you're anti-government and you are not willing to provide for government services, this includes a fire department, this is the result. So it is what it is. The next part is interesting. Slab City. I don't know if you would call it a sprawling place. You can walk from end to end without too much trouble, unless it's 120 degrees out. Then you might have a pretty heavy sweat. But there are turns out, two neighborhoods. So you have Slab City proper, and here are the signs that you see on the northern edge of the area, where the dirt road, and I use the word in its most nominal sense of being a road. To the right, you can go to Slab City and the Slab City Hostel, or you can go to the neighborhood just to the west, ironically called East Jesus. So those are the two neighborhoods of Sun City out, as you can see, in the middle of nowhere. These are the types of communities and dwellings that you'll see. Again, very artistic types. I recall a professor of California geography, whose course I took, talking about desert dwellers generally, is that they tend to be strange, and the longer they're in the desert, the stranger they get. But I suppose all of us, our traits become more pronounced for good or ill as we move along through life. But in this case, you do have this rather interesting dwelling. Again, kind of militantly independent sorts who like to put up weird stuff, but interestingly enough, things are walled off, so they are a little bit protective of their stuff. You also have this, is again kind of quirkiness, just an abandoned truck that's been decorated to the max, and again sort of sitting out. This is their, I guess, what you would call an equivalent to a lawn ornament in most suburban areas. You have this little curiosity. It's just a post with little manufactured branches on it, and obviously a ton of shoes have been thrown up. I don't know if this is a communal shoe dispensary. We can only speculate, but again, they're creative types. You got to give them that for all the oddities. Now, Slab City itself, odd name. It seems that it was formerly a military base, perhaps a marine outpost. You do have this, a couple of them, actually, kind of guard tower type, not towers, but guard posts that are pretty heavily fortified. Clearly, this is set up along the road, again, such as it is, going into Slab City. But if you look closely, it's really a kind of a bunker. You can see where you could have a weapon pointing out, and it would be very hard to dislodge an armed person from that particular location. So kind of a guard box. What adds to the surreal nature of this, and why to me it does conjure up images of Bartertown, those familiar with the Mad Max trilogy. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome had a community called Bartertown, and you had a lot of, again, creative vehicles that were out there, and you had this assembled right there, again, very close proximity to Slab City. But you also had this. This was put together, and this is a kind of a curiosity and does draw people to it. Again, a kind of an eccentric artist who had found the Lord, created this kind of holy mount, which is literally held up by hay bales and plaster and some tree branches. So he created this holy mount, and it's been kept up. There is a group that collects some donations, and people can walk up and about it, and it's got all sorts of biblical sayings sprinkled throughout it, and it's out there in the middle of the desert. It is what it is. This is the panoramic view of Slab City. There you go. This is Greater Slab City. And everybody basically just gets out there and squats on some land. It's in the middle of the desert, and nobody's apparently claiming this area. So they're out there squatting away. And it's a hodgepodge. Some people are permanent residents, and some people are snowbirds who come in seasonally, because this is a hotter than hell place in the summer. It's among the hottest places you can find in the United States, second perhaps only to Death Valley. Now, when you get to Slab City, again, you're passing this modified guard post. Slab City, the last free place, that's their tagline. And again, very interesting community. There is a stage, one of the public spaces is a stage where apparently bands will come and play. And if they're electrified, they have to be electrified by solar power, because there's nothing else available there. By the way, there is also no potable water. You've got to bring your water with you there. Such is the lack of services, but also, I guess, the tenacity of people who really want to be out there on their own. totally unfettered from any governance whatsoever. Now, when you leave, this is the other side of that guard post. When you're leaving Slab City, this is what you'll see as you get past the city line. So there you go. As I mentioned, you do have to travel pretty far out. You got to want to come to Slab City. This is part of the road that goes there. And I'll just sort of fade to black with this image going down the road in the middle of the desert, very hot outside. And I'll make a quick pan, in this case to the left, because we were leaving some Slab City at the time. And you'll see the Salton Sea. There we go. Barely see the Salton Sea, which we were passing. There you go. Thank you very much. So again, just to finish off our little episode about Slab City, while I was there, I did encounter a little outpost where they were selling t-shirts. The t-shirt looks like this. They didn't go big time on the graphics. It's manufactured, it's actually a Fruit of the Loom HD cotton model shirt, and emblazoned on it is Slab City, the last free place. Again, call it the city logo. This gets to one of the points I did want to make about my critique of libertarianism as displayed in this particular episode, where the shirt cost $20. Oddly enough, for a group that was so anti-government, they would only take cash. You could not pay in aluminum cans, which I thought was definitely a contradiction to their espoused ideology. Yeah, no credit cards. It was simply cold hard cash, American money, which does say on it, you know, this is Federal Reserve notes. So, yeah, they're anti-government to a point. And on that note, thank you very much for listening.